All right. So one of my favorite parts of this book, and I'm sure Rob's too, was one of the revelations, and there were really to me only two big revelations, and one of them I knew, one of them I saw coming. This first one though is at the vet, right? So they go to the vet, and the vet
Yeah.
says, "Yeah, this cat isn't really a kitten anymore. Male pattern baldness, and based on
Male.
I don't know." Well, yeah, that's one of the things that they had said, right? And then rings around the eyes or some shit, right?
Right,
Like
right.
some vet stuff, and they said, "Yeah, this cat's probably pretty old." But whenever somebody brings in a cat that's not theirs, we have to scan it to see if it has an implant, one of those little chip things that'll tell us who the owner is. So there's this scene of concern, right? They're going to find the owner of the cat, and Xanther is very sad because she's obviously clearly very attached to it. They come back and they're like, "Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, but nothing for you to worry about. Apparently, there's something wrong because it's coming up as a dog
And dead.
and dead." So I didn't say it in the actual review, but I'll say it now. That cat was dead when Xanther found it, and Xanther somehow brought it back to life. So I don't know, reincarnation, but Chip wouldn't go with you. Like there's weird shit that's not, I don't know. This could be a fucking a spit in the face of cat lovers everywhere, where it turns out that really it was a dog. It's a dog at heart
Right.
that somehow got transformed into a cat, and fucking cat lovers everywhere are gonna fucking lose their shit. This is Danielewski's joke on the world.
And dog lovers are going to be pissed because they're like, I don't want no cat.
That's right. Danielewski hates animals, is what happened. And he's gonna piss everybody off. That's really what this. What's the math on that? 26 volumes, 800 pages, like fucking 16 bazillion pages is all gonna be fuck you, cat owners.
Yeah,
Fuck
but
you.
he lives in. If you think about it, dude lives in L.A. If you had to imagine, like, if I just had to guess, what city in the United States has the largest number of asshole pet owners? I'm guessing L.A. Hands
Well,
down.
it has the largest number of people. Well, whatever, second largest number of people. So I would have to imagine that that's. But yes, I know exactly what you're saying. The people in California are a little weird.
They're assholes and pet
Oh,
owners.
I don't know if they're all assholes. We know some nice people from
Hey,
California.
Michael Gonzalez is a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. J.R. Harlan's a nice guy.
Yeah,
We know a
Harlan's
couple
good.
nice guys. That's it, though.
Got to give it up for even Danielewski. He was great.
Yeah, but see, he's not originally from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a transplant. So yeah, that was one reveal that I thought was excellent and easily one of my favorite parts of the book.
Now, moving on from that, so we were talking about how the cat dog cat, dat, cog, whatever, is like deathly ill, right? And at
Hmm.
one point in the book, the one of the friends is like, "Yeah, I don't think that," and it's even described how like the feeding process goes, and the friend's like, "Yeah, it's not eating." And so it's starving to death, but it seems like it gets revitalized when Xanther's around, and Xanther gets really sick when it's not near this thing. So obviously there's some symbiotic thing going on. Um, it's drawing energy from her, right? Like it's some sort
Yeah,
of like psychic vampire kind of thing.
I have to imagine so. And see, initially when as I was reading this, and you start to put two and two together that Xanther's fine when she's at home, and that the cat really only ever does anything with her. I started kind of thinking, well, Xanther did bring it back to life, so maybe this is really about Xanther and not about the cat. But then I remembered that the cat is Jing Jing's, like, aunt's cat.
Right.
So there's something else going on there. But you're right, it's some kind of symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship there where the one needs the other one. But, the questions become if you make it to volume 24, if it's even published, where do you find out what was it doing in Singapore? What was it getting from there? Was the ant drawing power from that ant the same way? And how did it find Xanther? Or did Xanther call to it? There's going to be some interesting things that need to be explained here, and it's Danielewski is probably the right guy to do it. But you got to be really careful too that one loose thread in that whole thing and the whole story falls apart.
I gotta say though, when she starts seeing the fucking eyes, everybody's eyes, that was creepy, right?
That was creepy, and it took me a while to determine if she was actually seeing that or if that was, I don't know, metaphoric, I guess.
I think she was actually
I think I
seeing it.
think you're right, but it took me a while to come to that conclusion.
And so, but is it? It's with everybody, right? It's not just like the people she doesn't like or anything.
No, I think it's with
Even her sisters,
yes, yeah, but
Shanti and for whatever.
yeah, whatever their weird names are. Did you notice the overwhelming number of weird names in this book?
No, yeah, everybody's got. No one's got a normal name.
Yeah, and I thought that in the first one. There's like one person in this book because I started actually paying attention, and finally I got to one, and I was like, oh, well, Luther, I guess is not.
Luther. Yeah.
But no, there was one character. His name was like Mike, and I was like, really? There's just a Mike in this book?
Mike, you're in the wrong book.
And what happened with the sex? There is a ton more sex or talk about sex in this book than I remember there being in the familiar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The patient.
The patient.
The
Oh well, there's
Astaire's
that.
patient.
Yes, but there's Astaire and the whole talk about the live sex acts thing, which
Right. The porn. What?
yeah.
Home
So
porn.
I will give you an interesting tidbit.
Uh-oh.
I've never had actual confirmation on this, but many years ago I had a friend who had a friend who allegedly did home porn with her husband.
Wait, that's a real thing?
Yes, and we're talking like 20 years ago, real thing.
Fucking
Like,
hell.
this isn't
Seriously?
even new, but exactly as it was described is how it was put to me. That they, they advertised whatever through some kind of magazine at the time. It wasn't even internet, and that people pay them to come to their home, do shit in their home, and it was kind of that whole no touch, no whatever. You pay for an hour, we do whatever, we get up, we leave, you pay.
I
So
didn't
that's
know.
not
Okay.
only a thing; it's been around for a long time.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Home porn. All right.
Oh, so there was that. There was the crazy scenes with Luther in the whorehouse having sex with like four different prostitutes, not
Yeah.
at one time, but in the series.
Rocking some Viagra.
Yeah, Oscar was going a little nuts thinking about his wife and the sex they used to have.
Yeah, it was all horned up.
Yeah, it was a lot of it. There's like that whole weird almost blowjob scene with Astaire and Anwar. I mean, it was heavy for sex that I don't remember in any Danielewski thing that I've ever read.
Yeah, he doesn't really do the sex too much. That was different. Um, the red text toward the end of the book when Xanther loses the loses the cat.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? And she
The,
goes out into the street.
the weird red. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I want a poster of that.
Right. So I'm looking. So first, the first page you see is what looks like eyes that are at symbols, right? Like she's seeing the eyes throughout the whole book, and like it shows you these eyes, but they're like human eyes, but they're at symbols.
I'm opening the book because I may have not paid as much attention because I was just happy there were pages without text on them. That I
So
did.
go to like almost like 709, like
Mhm.
787 or something like that. So when Xanther sees the weird eyes on other people, like she's in the school and she's walking through the hallway and she sees people's eyes are weird, then it sometimes shows like what the visual representation of what she's seeing is as like the eyes look like a cluster of at symbols that are like blue, right?
Yep.
But then I'm curious about this because toward the end of the book, essentially she wakes up at one point and the cat's just gone, and she runs out into the I'm guessing into the forest, like the name of the book, to try and find the cat, right?
Hmm.
And it's saying to the street, to the middle of the street, in only her nightgown facing a long line of street lamps, as if to face down headlights, too accelerating her way. And then the next page is the eyes, but she's not seeing the eyes, so I'm guessing this is her eyes, right?
That's kind of an interesting thought.
And the eyes have kind of a red center, and then you flip and it says focus locked on focus, wobbling, loosening, flicked easily aside, blah, blah, blah. TF Narcon jumps in with some stuff that's been repeated throughout the book. And then you have two black pages, and it jumps to the next pages are just like this swirl of red. And you know what it spells, right? Did you read what it spells?
No.
Android.
Oh. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Radiating outward from the red swirls, it says Android. So now, how does that tie in with shit?
So she gets hit by the car, right? We're on the same page about that.
She has to, right?
Okay, yeah. So do we think that she's a robot?
I don't know. Why would it say android? And then there's black, and it's all like it's blood colored red, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's android, android, android everywhere, and then more black pages and more red. Each time you skip over black pages to the next red, it's more red coming from everywhere, like exploding outward until like there's so much of it.
It must be the most beautiful pages I've ever seen in a book. I tell
But
you that, with the blurry, like,
right,
backwards passages behind it.
yep. So what is android?
That's a good question. I can't believe I actually missed that. Like I said, at that point, I think I was.
You were just blazing through it. You're like, I gotta get done with this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
So we know there's supernatural stuff at work, but we also know these people have the orbs, which are essentially like super futuristic computers, right?
For the most part, and they can see things that are happening currently other places.
But they can also see the future, I thought.
Well, they can no, they can see the past. I think because
Oh.
at one point that the new girl, the masseuse, asks if you can see the future,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's really kind of a non-answer.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know that they can see the future, but they can definitely see the current, and I believe they can see the past, and I think they showed us that in the first book.
But they know who Xanther is. But now we figured out why. At the end of the book, we know why. Because
Right.
the
So
we know who the sorcerer is.
yeah, and I saw that coming. I
Yeah,
knew
that was kind of
from the
obvious.
last book, as much as they mentioned Mephisto,
Yeah.
that he had to have something to do outside this book, and the most realistic thing that it could be
Right.
was that he was somehow involved with the orb.
Yeah. Disappointing for me was that one of the most creepy parts of the first book was when Xanther was doing that like run through of that game that Anwar made,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a hunt. It was like hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and it made you feel real creepy and like, oh man, this is coming back. And we didn't really see that this time.
No, as a matter of fact, she plays that game towards the end,
Yeah.
and there's nothing stalking her.
Yeah.
And she talks about it's still kind of nice because, like, there's water over there, and you can almost smell the river or whatever, which was cool. But yeah, there was very little of that, even though there seemed to be a lot of Anwar equating things in life to programming.
Yeah. And he's essentially building AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're on the
It
same
seems
page
that
about
way.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I know we were talking a lot about the main Xanther Astaire Anwar stuff, and then Luther getting banging all over the place, and Oscar. There's something that we. You know what I'm talking. You know where I'm going with this. There's something
Yeah.
that probably the most disturbing. Not even probably. Definitely the most disturbing part of the whole book. And I think this would be an interesting thing to end our spoilers on.
Can I say before you go on this? This isn't even one of the named characters that this happens with. It's not one of and the character has a name, and we talked about it, but I mean, this isn't even a person who has their own sections. Does the most fucked up thing in the whole book.
Yeah. So, you want to introduce it, or do you want me to?
No, you go ahead.
So, Isandorno, this is during his thing, is working for a character called the Mayor, and at some point, the Mayor, who is a drug dealer, who we kind of guessed at when we weren't spoiling things, discovers that one of his shipments in L.A. gets, what is it? It just gets. There's a like the feds get involved, right? Like the cops show up, right?
Yeah, something weird happens. Yeah, I wasn't really clear on what because there was a football player. I wasn't really.
There was
clear
a football player. There was like FBI. There was cops. There was drug dealers. A lot of shooting happened, and basically, the mayor lost his money, is what it comes down to because of this deal that went bad. And so internally, the organization thinks maybe there's a rat somewhere, blah blah blah, whatever. So that's all trying to get worked out. But the mayor down in where are they at?
I think they're in Mexico. I guess I could find out since it's postmarked. But where else would they be? I guess they could be in South America, right?
So I mean, there's so many. They could be in fucking Peru, Brazil. They could be.
You know
in
what? They don't get a
Honduras.
stamp.
They don't get a stamp at all.
No, they get a color, but they don't get a postmark. At least not in the section I'm in.
They could be Colombia, Guatemala. They could be anywhere. They could be in tons of different places. They could be in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're where they are. They're the cartel people, and at one point, when the mayor's trying to figure out who kind of sold out, who gave up the information that made this shit go wrong, they go and visit who we find out is one of his accountants, or an accountant that knows that I'm assuming launders money, right?
I would
'Cause
imagine that's the only reason they got an accountant. Yeah,
right. That's what accountants do.
pretty much.
They
That's what my
launder money.
accountant does.
I need an accountant. I need money to launder first. Let's be honest. Um, they go to this accountant's house, and the accountant's like kind of freaked out, and he's got a wife who's ill, and they have a newborn baby. And this is so fucking cold because the mayor and Isandorno show up with like a bunch of the mayor's servants, and they got tables and food, and they're setting up basically this massive. They call it a picnic, but let's talk. It's like a party.
It's like a rich person's picnic, yeah.
Rich picnic, and so they're going through this whole thing, and the mayor's like, well, we need to talk business, and and basically he takes the accountant off to the side and says, hey, did you give anybody locations of where things were going to go? And he's like, I only knew about money, I never knew locations. And it's just really tense the whole time you're reading it. You're like, wow, he's just going to kill this guy, or he's going to hurt the family. And then like while this is going on outside in their lawn, some of the servants are inside, I'm guessing killing friends.
Yeah, because one of his guys comes out and he's got blood on his face.
So they're already killing people inside, but they're not, like, one guy kind of stumbles out and they're like, it's okay. And he goes back to talking to them, and he makes it seem like, hey, everything's cool. And he's like, let's celebrate, let's have lunch or whatever. And the accountant goes in to get a bottle of wine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna let you finish this up.
The mayor then says,
I forgot about the donut.
Yep. He says, let's eat, and picks up this baby and throws it in a giant deep fryer. Now, this is the second book in the last 2 months that we've read that had an infant going into something way too hot for infants to be going into. Maybe it's a little bit of maybe it's a trend. Maybe
it's a trend in literature.
Is making a comeback. It was really big in like the 1600s.
Now, I mean, what better time than now, right?
Exactly. No time like the present. Yeah, that was definitely. I didn't see that coming. I thought they're going to kill the accountant, and then he's like, no, we're cool. And then, like you said, the guy stumbles out of the house, and I was like, oh yeah, shit's still going down.
It was such a tense moment, and I'm like, and he hits you with, because he plants the seed early on, because they have this deep fryer, and he says it makes 1,000 donuts an hour. So that's all you have to hear to know this is a serious deep fryer, right?
I kept thinking that's amazing.
I want 1,000 donuts an hour, yeah. And then it comes up again later on. Mm-hmm. Like, so if we're pacing this out, like at the beginning of the story you hear about this deep fryer, in the middle of the story you hear about the deep fryer, in the middle of this scene, I'm sorry. Beginning of the scene you hear it, middle, and then just the fucking last sentence, the baby goes into the deep fryer, and you're like, oh, like you should have seen it coming. And throughout I'm like, there's no way he's putting that baby in the deep fryer.
Yeah.
He cannot. And then bam, the baby goes into the deep fryer, and I'm like, I can't believe that just happened.
Well, I think we found our new villain for the story in the mayor.
The mayor? God damn, that is cold, man.
Because up until then, he's really just kind of like, we should find out what happened. Like, he's really kind of a
Yeah.
He's not a real intimidating guy. Doesn't do anything.
He's unassuming.
Mm-hmm, yeah, there's another character that pops up that Luther is with in Hawaii. He's kind of the same way,
Teo or something like that.
Yeah. He's there, and Teo's showering him with money and women and clothes and stuff, and basically he's asking for a favor, and that's to get rid of people that knew about this kind of fuck up with the drugs. But again, kind of this laid back. At that point, I was kind of expecting him to do some crazy shit.
Yeah, but that was before. Was that before or after the baby in the deep fryer?
I think that was after the baby in the deep fryer. Yeah.
Either way, man, that is some messed up shit.